And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. And today, my guest is someone I'll call a new friend. We met recently, and it was one of these instant sort of like times where you meet someone you know you're going to be friends for a long time. So Claude Silver is currently the Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia. She's an emotional optimist. She's a coach. She's a manager, and she's a mentor. And she is now sort of developing some of our own content and thought leadership and all those sort of fun things. And I thought she'd be a great person to have on today. So thanks for joining us, Claude.
Thank you, Peter. I'm honored and I appreciate being in front of your audience today.
Great. No pressure, but there's dozens, if not 20, out there attentively
Maybe
listening.
maybe
I'm kidding.
25 after today.
Exactly. So you are a respected executive, right? Coming from the advertising side, and you're at Vayner now, and chief heart officer, and all that. But first? Let's start with sort of the gist of your content. So what does it mean to be an emotional optimist?
For me, an emotional optimist is someone that can understand and have great respect for the range of emotions that us humans go through on a minute by minute basis
Right.
and is able to see the sunny side, the positive side of whatever it is that we're going through. And I don't mean like you're in a tragic accident and things happen for a reason. That's not what I mean by an emotional optimist. I mean
Right.
that you will get through it because life is about thriving, not just surviving. So
Right.
let's find out how we can get you through that.
Got it. So you're sort of earlier in this path than many in terms of developing this as thought leadership that you're passionate about, thought leadership that you're speaking about, thought leadership that you're writing about. Talk a little bit about sort of how you start to develop the underlying principles and concepts and then test it and start to get it out and play with it in the marketplace and into the universe. What has that journey been like for you?
Yeah, I love that question because I've really been so fortunate to be here at VaynerMedia, where there's 800 people I work for on a daily basis. And so there's no better or bigger sandbox than this to test out and try out methodologies, tools, tips, parables, whatever you want. My toolkit is very full of things that I've amassed in a short lifetime, and so I'm able to try different things based on the situation scenario that I'm faced with any individual, and that could be anything from taking a page out of Tara Brach's Buddhist psychology.
Yep.
We could think about Peter Siegelman's positive psychology, which I
Right.
lean on quite a bit. I also do a lot of work when it comes to just coaching, quite frankly, walking someone through what their values are. What is their purpose? How do we find a purpose? What is a North Star guiding principle? I might take out Man's Search for Meaning by
Yep.
Viktor Frankl. I mean, I play with a lot of different things at my fingertips that come to me in that moment. It's not, I don't, I'm not a theorist.
So I love the sort of the concept that Vayner is your laboratory, right? So you've got 800 lab rats, most of them dressed in hoodies, right, running around there looking for help and support. And just during the normal course of your work, you're applying various concepts that you are familiar with in situations that make sense. How do you sort of sift through that and sort of come up with the stuff that's uniquely Claude versus, Viktor Frankl's book's one of my favorite books, and there's lots of places for that. But how do you sort of put these things together to come up with the smoothie that is yours?
Yeah, this is going to sound so incredibly simple, Peter, but I think of myself as a servant leader. I think of what I do very much as in the service of. I find that I am a natural born coach, and I think about what we do here with within the walls of an advertising agency, and especially now that I'm overseeing everything that is people and HR. It's hospitality for me. That is legit hospitality. So there isn't while I might call on the great masters and those that have written and come up with great theories, I think of the golden rule. I live my life by the golden rule. and I try to teach and inspire from that place. And that's where I bring the word hospitality into it, because you do unto others as you would have them do to you. You want to treat people as your barista just treated you at Starbucks. Hopefully they've spelled your name correctly. And it's there's no magic to being in service of people for me. It is very much a please and thank you economy that I come from and that I work from. And from that place, I'm able to promote emotional optimism in the way of helping someone be big in the room, take up space, see the good in themselves, understand that they are enough, that they are worthy to be in whichever room they're asked to be in. And you bring that into the collective, and let's just call it one team, one dream kind of methodology or modality. But it's really silly. I'm very, one for all and all for one. I'm three musketeers. So, maybe that's my juvenile mindset, but it works for me, and I feel like that is something that I don't see out in the marketplace.
Yep.
I almost think what I talk about is so common sense and so simple that it might be too simple for many to grasp it, and there's more theory and more
Right.
quant towards
Well,
things.
but common sense is far less common than it ought to be, right?
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how are you now? So you've got a very demanding job. It's a global organization. I don't even know what the rate of growth is from a headcount perspective is. I imagine 20, 30% a year. You've got a busy day job, right? And then this is a big component of how sort of the Claude operating system of being a human, right? But now you're looking to sort of get it out into the world a little bit. Tell me, can you give us some examples of how you do that in a way that is time effective and because it's easy to say yes, it's hard to say no to opportunities. So how do you find places to speak and sort of like-minded communities and places to sort of nurture the content as well as explore things?
Well, another way that I'm extremely fortunate, I think, in not only working for Gary Vaynerchuk, but being having this platform, quite frankly, of VaynerMedia to
Yep.
play in, because everything that I have, every stage I've been on, every place I've been able to speak or teach has come to me, and so I've been able to be reactive. Obviously, I want the paradigm to change towards being much more proactive and going after the opportunity and making sure I'm on those bigger stages. And so that's something very much in my plan for Q2 on out for 2019.
Well, but
Obviously,
let me push on that though.
yeah,
Even though things are coming to you, I would argue or assume that you're not saying yes to everything because you've got a busy job. So when you've got 10 invites in front of you to come to Switzerland or do a webinar or whatever. How do you make choices to say, you know what, yeah, that's worth my time. That would be interesting. Either probably not financial, but curiosity. That's the right audience. How do you go through that process? Because time's our scarcest resource.
yeah, times are scarce. So anything in different geographies, I'm most of the time a yes to, whether or not that is Dubai. I was in Bratislava in July. I was just in last week, I was in Vienna. London is an obvious one. So making sure that I can scale my message to other geographies is extremely important. I do not want to be known as a North American thought leader. I want to be global. I want to impact humans, not just humans on this continent.
So
So
wait,
that's
but
important.
I want to dive into that for half a second and get back to the question. So that's an interesting approach because most folks come at it from whatever their perspective is, North American, whatever the case may be, and then say, oh, yeah, you know what? I do want to be global. What do I need to add into this? How come you're starting with a global perspective? And I know you've worked globally, but why is that so important to you early on? I find that really interesting.
Yeah, it's actually there's no second thought to it. This is a macrocosm. I mean, humans, each and every human is unique and each and every culture is unique, and I want to understand and respect the details and the nuances, the je ne sais quoi of each and every culture. And I find it an incredible honor when I am invited into those places to observe and then to present and to share. So for me, I've decided to start with the well rather than the faucet. The faucet to me would be maybe the easier reach, staying here in America, certainly staying on coastal cities. But it's much more interesting to me to be a stranger in a strange land. I think that that's really who I am in many, many ways. I've never really put it that way, but it makes sense for me to go outside of my comfort zone. That is who I am, and so it's never been a question for me that I wasn't. I am going to say yes when it comes to different geographies, and I am going to say yes when it comes to people that are different or groups that are different than me. So I've never considered myself an HR professional because I didn't start in the HR world.
Sure.
When I am asked to speak at SHRM events or I'm asked to speak at CHRO national conferences, I say yes, which is interesting because I am presenting to them something that, again, common sense isn't so commonsensical. But I'm really going against the grain when I'm talking about bringing humanity and back into the workplace. And I'm looking at CHROs who are like, hey, kid, we've been doing this for 35 years. What are you talking about?
Right.
Watching their faces and seeing them from the audience, how they're lighting up or they're doing the head nod, gives me a lot of juice to let me know that I'm on the right path when it comes to that particular audience segmentation.
No, and I think the important piece there is you're not necessarily one of the obvious in that tribe, right? You're a bit of an outsider, to say the least, in terms of what a typical CHRO looks like. So, what are the other things that you're thinking about doing, et cetera, as you're developing your thought leadership?
So I really want to be able to formulate more masterclass, and whether or not that is in person or we take that online, it's something that's important to me because a the intimacy that I enjoy with a group of 20 people getting together for an entire day, day and a half, and going there is fascinating and fun for me. I'm an old outward bounder, so I'm
Yep.
used to small groups tackling big challenges. And so that's the first thing. I think master classes are something that I'm fascinated by, and I want to get more involved in that. Online courses, of course, much more keynoting, and then writing a book, two or three. And that is, something you and I have spoken about in terms of what does Claude stand for? What are we solving for? And I'm still working through that. I think that if I asked 20 people this minute on LinkedIn or Instagram, they'd be able to tell me, but I don't know if I embody that yet. You know what I'm saying?
Even though they're telling you it's a response to their perception of you and not necessarily the content that you want to shape, right? So just because everybody perceives you one way doesn't mean you're forced to go there from a content perspective because you get to make the choices. You get to design this from a blank slate, if you will.
Yeah, that's so true. So it's getting the message, the inspiration out there. I'd like people to chew on some meaty subjects with me, and come out on the other side feeling whether or not they feel elated, lighter,
Right.
inspired. That is what juices me.
Right. Give me an example. One of the things that you said are doing these sort of in-depth master classes, right? Which is different than a keynote, right? A keynote is 60 minutes. It's pretty much scripted, right? You may go off track a little bit here and there, et cetera. But when you go to a workshop, there's depth there. What are the things that you're going to cover or questions you're going to ask or hope happens in that deeper experience than the sort of a drive-by keynote, if you will?
The first one is actual storytelling, and I know everyone talks about storytelling, but I do think, as someone that has sat in many 12-step meetings in my life, there are many stories to be told.
Right.
I'm interested in the climb. I'm interested in how we got to the bottom and how we kicked and kicked and kicked up to the top. And that's very specific. That's very, very different. And so it takes a different, a courageous person, a courageous mindset to come into something like that, recognizing that there will be some tears and some celebrations and some claps and certainly some arm chills.
Well, you have to model that as well because I mean, you can't sort of facilitate a group and say, okay, everybody tell me your deepest, darkest secret and get emotional and cry. And I'm going to sit here and take some notes or check my email
Yeah,
or something, right?
right,
While you're doing
right.
that.
Which is why I will say, quote unquote, outing myself on social media, which I started to do about a year, 18 months ago, has been not only cathartic for me, it has been my way to get to let people know me as my friends would know me, if you will. Now, I'm not sharing all the gore and horror that I went through, but I'm sure certainly sharing, look, I have been there. I have been at the bottom. Even today, I put up a post on Instagram which which talks about something that I had gone through at 28.
Right, right.
I started doing that on social, and I started doing that here at VaynerMedia because it was very apparent that people were their perception of me was, she has this cush job and she just like plopped into a role in HR, whatever. And it's like, oh man, if you only knew, what it was like to grow up in a house where I took the SATs 3 times untimed and still got a 1050. Like, it was hard.
Right.
Might have led me to do some self sabotaging behaviors. Lost a few friends who took their life, that kind of stuff. And I'm interested in sharing that in an authentic way with people that are interested in listening.
Well, and I think, and everybody has their story, right? Everybody has their baggage. Everybody has something they want to get, out on. And
Hmm.
there's a balancing act, and this is really where it gets interesting, where, well, what's appropriate in the workplace and what's not? What's too far? You know, you have to do that in a way that allows people sort of under the hood a little bit, but there's got to be some sort of lines, if you will. And again, this is probably where the traditional CHROs get really nervous and would say, well, that's why we don't do any of that because there might be some risk that, so how
Yeah.
do you manage that piece of
Well, I think I manage it in the way that I started this conversation, which is human, in a very human to human way, which is it's empathy. It's I see you, I got you, I've been there, I understand, and I'm going to be there with you along the ride. Like this isn't going to be one and done. Thank you for your $1,000 for the master class, and I don't call me. There has to be some kind of, we're going to create a relationship with one another, and I hope I do that with my, the books that I sell as well, where we have a lasting relationship, and whether or not it is one of complete mutuality or it's a little bit lopsided, I'm okay with that. I'm very, very clear that I am here to be of service. I don't question that about
Yep,
my life's purpose.
yep. No, I love it. So as we start to wrap up here, what advice would you have for folks that are out there that are thinking, I've got something, maybe I don't have something, where do I start? They've got something that they're passionate about, they've got something that they think they want to get out into the world. What are the things that you would suggest that they consider?
Well, in this magical era of social media, I would absolutely consider posting it, creating a piece of content or 10 and seeing what the reaction is. That's what I would do. You have a focus group that is right there in
Yep.
front of you, like it or not. And so you also have to be careful for what you wish for. That is for sure. There will be some people out there that are laughing. I saw someone comment on one of my LinkedIn posts today. It was they're laughing. That's cool because it just juices me.
Well, and you don't have to respond to everything that's out there. I mean, look for the
No, of
patterns.
course
There
not.
there are people that are just behave in
Yeah,
ways online that are just not nice.
yeah. It's easy to hide behind that facade. However, to start, one needs to start. It's so easy to procrastinate, and it's so easy to think like that's not the perfect picture. My grammar might be. Just throw it up there because it's only up there for a blink in time, and you might as well see how it lands. But more than that, Peter, you might as well see how you feel once it's out there. That I think is interesting.
Right. Right. So that's that cathartic, that release, like it's out. So, well,
Yeah.
this has been
It
awesome.
yeah. Thank you.
I want to thank you for being you and being transparent and looking forward to see how things unfold. And we will be seeing a lot more amazing stuff coming from you in the months and years to come. So thanks for sharing it today.
Thank you, Peter. Great to talk to you.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.